What's up everyone, welcome back to more Reddit stories about Karens, crazy people, and all that kind of stuff. Hope you're all doing awesome, and as usual, we'll be checking out some more Reddit posts today. So feel free to share your thoughts about today's stories down in the comments, and we're getting right into it. Entitled Aunt gave my baby a piercing without asking. Yes, it's exactly what it sounds like. I, 26 female, had my first baby girl 3 months ago. We've been really cautious about visitors, basic hygiene, no kissing, you know the drill. My aunt, my mom's sister, came to visit last weekend. She's always been overbearing. She kept talking about how cute my baby would look with earrings. I brushed it off and said, "We're not doing piercings for a while, maybe when she's older and can choose." Apparently no meant ask forgiveness, not permission. I went to take a shower while my mom and aunt watched the baby. When I came out, my daughter was crying and I saw the tiniest glint of gold on her earlobe. My aunt proudly said, "Surprise, I used my friend's gun kit. She barely felt a thing." I lost it. I told her she had no right. My mom was horrified too. She had no idea this was going to happen. We took my daughter to urgent care just to make sure there was no infection. I called my aunt the next day and told her she's not allowed near us for the foreseeable future. She cried to my mom about how kids these days are so dramatic and that she was trying to bond with her niece. No. You violated my child's body without consent. That's not bonding, that's assault. Am I the a-hole for telling a guy to shut up during a job interview? I was interviewing this guy for a very good software engineering position. He passed the first round, and both I and everyone involved in the second round really liked his resume and experience. On paper, he had everything we were looking for, and honestly, this looked like a life-changing opportunity for him. Then he shows up, very serious and not smiling at all. I'm used to that in tech interviews, and I understand it can be an intimidating environment. We did a round of introductions, and then he opened the interview by saying, "Let me tell you a little bit about myself." We said, "Okay, go for it." He started talking and talking about his personal and professional background. After about 3 minutes, I jumped in to ask a follow-up question based on something he mentioned. He replied, "I will answer, just give me a moment," and continued talking. A coworker jumped in with another question, and he said the same thing to her. At this point, we were kind of looking at each other, but decided to let him continue and give him the benefit of the doubt. But after more than 5 minutes, I jumped in again with another question. I had to talk over him to do it. He finally paused and answered, but in such a long-winded way that he ended up veering into another topic. At this point, I was ready to end the interview. I tried to politely wrap it up several times, but he was unable to read the room and just kept talking. I finally raised my voice slightly and said something like, "Thank you very much for sharing your background. In the interest of time, I'd like to ask if you have any questions for us. This is standard protocol and helps us prepare answers for future interviews." He asked a question about the team. As I was answering, he raised his finger and interrupted to talk more about his background. I let it go. Then he asked another question which my coworker started to answer, but again he spoke over her to talk about himself. I tried once more to interrupt politely, but he kept talking. At that point, I was done. I said, "John, you really have to shut up and listen." He was surprised, as was my coworker, but he finally stopped talking. I continued, "You walked into this room with a 99% chance of getting the job. Now that chance is 0. The only reason is because in less than 15 minutes, you've demonstrated that you don't have the capacity to listen at all. So I'm telling you now, you're not getting the job. But if you take anything away from this interview, let it be this. No matter how good you are technically, if you can't listen, you'll never excel in this career." He apologized and said, "Can we start again?" I replied, "You had your chance. Best of luck in your future interviews. Make sure you listen." Looking back, I know I could have handled that differently, but I still feel bad for the guy. Entitled Parent wants me to change plane seats because my face scares her kid. I, 24 male, am visiting Boston for the week and just got off a 5-hour flight a few hours ago, and I'm still kind of shaken up and upset. For context, a few months ago I had a procedure called an orbital exenteration. You can search that up if you want. For an aggressive cancer that left me with what is basically a hole the size of a pool ball where my right eye used to be. I typically don't wear any facial coverings or prosthetics to cover it because of how recent this was, and how I'm still attempting to come to terms with the fact that I'm basically missing the upper half of the right side of my face. Anyways, on this flight, I picked a window seat like I always do and settle in. And not long after, a woman boards with her husband and her son, who's around 4 or 5 years old. Her husband has a seat in the row behind me, and she and her son have the middle and aisle seats in my row. The moment her son saw me, he visibly recoils. I'm quite used to the occasional glances and stares, and it doesn't bother me. But whenever I notice children looking scared of me, that always kind of hurts. I know kids don't have filters, I understand, but I was expecting his mother to just tell him to knock it off or something. Instead, she asked me, "Can you switch seats with my husband? My son's not exactly the most comfortable sitting next to you. I apologize. He's kind of scared here, so it would really help us out." I told her that no, I wouldn't change seats because I wanted my window seat, to which she asked me a few more times before giving up and saying something along the lines of, "Seriously? He's only a child. I just thought you might be a little more sensitive." And that pissed me off. I am sensitive. I've been sensitive about my face since the day I got surgery. I've avoided photos, mirrors, and public settings all too often. But apparently, I'm not sensitive enough for choosing my own comfort over a random child's. To be honest, for a while after that, I had to hold in tears because my disfigurement embarrasses me. And oftentimes I'm so embarrassed I don't go out much, and this reminded me exactly why. I understand a child is a child and people will stare. But I just hate how she treated me as if I was doing something wrong by just existing. Anyways, I'm in Boston, so yay. And I just hope that more parents would teach their kids that when they see someone who looks different, they're still normal people inside and don't deserve any different treatment than if they look normal. Husband's coworker spies on us to verify he's sick. Hubby was very sick. Had to take him to the ER after he passed out from dehydration from an intestinal bug he'd been dealing with for a few days. On the way, he calls his job to let them know. We park in the ER garage and get a little ticket that the ER validates for you. He's brought back, immediately given fluids and meds. We find out later a coworker who was pissy she was going to be shorthanded took it upon herself to somehow find our address and later drive over to our apartment to check to see if hubby is really sick. She sees our upstairs neighbor walking, who vaguely resembles my hubby. Both 6'3", light brown hair, similar builds. He's 15 years younger though and has his infant with them. Our kids are in their late 20s, early 30s. She goes back to work and tells boss that we lied about being sick, as she saw him at insert time walking around outside perfectly fine. The next morning, the boss calls hubby and lets him know he's going to be written up for calling out under false pretense and causing staffing issues. After pressing him for info, he tells us about what the coworker did. Hubby tells boss that firstly, we have proof we were in the ER at the time coworker said she saw him, and secondly, that he's filing an HR complaint on both the coworker and the manager, as there isn't any rule about why anyone can call out. And why the hell is his coworker at our house spying on us? In our state, management isn't allowed to inquire about your health, nor are they allowed to let you tell them about your health issues. Manager starts getting defensive and states if we can give him proof, then he'll excuse it. Hubby says you'll get your proof and hangs up. He immediately calls HR and lets them know what happened, and we provide them with the time-stamped parking ticket and part of the discharge paperwork from the ER showing what time we arrived and left. The next week, an email is sent out notifying all employees and management about the law concerning sick time, and also a separate notification that employees are not to be following, spying on, or otherwise contacting other employees outside of the office regarding work, time off, etc. Hubby was called into a meeting with the manager, the department head, and the female employee. The manager and the employee were absolutely roasted by the department head. The only thing the employee had to say was that the person she saw looked like my hubby, and she was just angry about the situation. And the manager's excuse was that the female employee had been there a long time, so he trusted her when she told him. When asked how she got her address, come to find out manager lets her in his computer regularly, and she has been privy to other employees' private info for some time. Department head said hubby was free to go with his profound apologies. We found out later the employee was fired and the manager was demoted and moved to a different department. My boyfriend pretends he owns the house that I bought to impress his family. This whole thing started last month or so. Me, 27 female, and my boyfriend, 26, who I will call Matt for privacy's sake, have been together for 6 years now. I'm the main breadwinner, and that has always been a struggle in our relationship. I would say he is pretty insecure of earning less than me. About a year ago, I had finally saved up to purchase a house in the neighborhood I really like. Up until then, me and Matt had been living in his apartment, which is cramped and not located in a nice area. Matt has never been too bothered about moving. He likes living in his apartment and he doesn't mind living elsewhere, as long as he doesn't have to pay more than half. Knowing damn well I could easily purchase the whole house and it was a bargain for the area, I bit the bullet and bought it from all my own savings. When we moved in, Matt loved the place, and I thought everything was fine. Now, this is the reason I am posting on Reddit. 2 days ago, me and Matt went over to his mom's place for dinner. Conversation was going fine until the topic of our house was brought up. Mother-in-law mentioned how proud she was of Matt for owning his own house at 26, which I was confused about, but obviously didn't want to start anything at the dinner table. Then Matt's sister chimed in about how much of an achievement it was. Matt looked over at me, not saying anything. I'm not usually a petty or confrontational person, but something about the fact that I was the one who not only bought the house but also paid the majority of the bills and Matt didn't even drop $1 stuck with me. So I decided to say something. I asked Matt who really bought the house in front of everyone. I know, it was a dick move, but honestly I was so riled up by that stage. Matt said nothing, and then I announced to everyone that Matt didn't even contribute to buying the house. Immediately after saying that, I packed up my stuff and went home. I have been texting with Matt's sister, I will call Kate, who seems to be on my side. Matt is staying with his mom right now, so I have the house all to myself. He hasn't contacted me yet, and I don't know whether it's worth breaking up over a lie like this. Update. Matt came back to the house. I was assuming he was coming back to get his things and leave, but I was unfortunately very wrong. He literally told me he could forgive me and that he was moving back in, as if that was a good thing. I was so shocked, but he was dead ass. So as any sane person would do, I grabbed all his remaining stuff, gave it to him and told him to get the F out. He got really mad at that and I was worried he would get aggressive, so I called Kate, sister-in-law, for backup. She was really helpful and drove Matt home. As soon as I can, I'm changing the locks. As for some of the comments, I pay the mortgage, and I don't even think Matt knows what a mortgage is. Alright guys, that's gonna do it for today. Thank you for watching. As always, I do appreciate it. If you enjoyed, be sure to hit that like button, drop a comment down below, and subscribe if you haven't already. So take care, stay tuned for more, and I'll see you in the next one.